taking control of my life. I want to run the red lights. I've got to run this show. You always take me so high. You always make the highlights. I love the way we vibe. You're like a centerfold. Ooh, that sugar sweet. You got what I need. Sipping on the potion. All that good emotion. Just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat. Tested by the motion. Loving is devotion. Ooh, that sugar. All I want is satisfaction. Make a move, baby, you got nothing to lose. Give me that good reaction. Gonna make it right, little like an offer I can't refuse. I'm on the road, it's my time. Taking control of my life. I want to run the red lights. I've got to run this show. You always take me so high. You always make the highlights. I love the way we vibe. You're like a centerfold. Ooh, that sugar sweet. You got what I need. Sipping on the potion. All that good emotion. Just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat. Tested by the motion. Loving is devotion. Ooh, that sugar Ooh, that Ooh, that sugar sweet. You got what I need. Sipping on the potion. All that good.
If you're not watching us live on YouTube, you're missing a lot. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a night dreamer.
Hey, this is April, the psychic housewife of New Jersey. Listen to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary Anderson.
Coming to you live from Night Dreams Talk Radio, it's Gary Anderson with the stories that will rock your world.
My neighbor tried to get me fired on Friday.
Stories that make perfect sense.
My Hollywood celebrity neighbor threatened me about a month ago that he would expose me because he hired a private investigator to dig into my background.
Important stories that are easy to follow.
And if I didn't stop the movie from being released, he would expose me.
So strap yourself in and get ready, because Gary is going to get to the bottom of it, no matter how long it takes.
And since they can't stop the movie from dropping, which is going to expose him...
Sorry, we've run out of time for this intro, so let's just do this. Once again, the Sultan of the Story, Gary Anderson.
Woo! I am back. And I tell you, it's nice to be back in the captain's chair. I hope everybody's having a good, week so far. The weather down at the compound today went from the 90s to, the upper 70s. They say later this week, rain. Next week, summer is going to be gone. That's how fast here down at the compound goes. We get summer, it's there, and then it's like somebody closes the door and it's gone. JC, what's going on in your area?
Well, I'm going to tell you, you might hear some thundering. No, I don't have a bowling alley in the other room. It's actual thunder. But yes, listen, it just seems like it was May yesterday. Here it is going into September, Gary. It's that scenario you talk about. When you get older, it goes faster. Yeah.
Well, we're talking today about this time traveler that has a photograph that's showing that, well, humans no longer live on the land.
Yeah, and it's funny because you always mention that they've got pictures and film. It's like, what they're not far advanced in that. I mean, they're 1,000 years in the future or more.
5,000, year 5,000.
Year 5,000, and they're still using Polaroid. Imagine that.
Yeah, well, he didn't say Polaroid. He just said he was holding a picture up again. They always seem to hold a picture up. Now look at this, real logically. I mean, have you watched Babylon 5, Star Trek, and stuff like that? Star Trek, they still had photographs, but look, holograms have come a long ways. Because I was watching Elvis Presley in a hologram the other day on TV in a show, and I tell you, it looked real to me. Why would they still have a photograph in the year 5,000?
Right. It reminds me of that. I think it was Art Bell's old show. There was a time traveler. They had to go back in the 70s and get that one certain computer. Remember that?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, also in the news, it seems maybe Putin got rid of one of his so-called buddies. It was a chef, and then all of a sudden was running a group of mercenaries. I guess what they said, his plane was shot down today as he was flying out to Africa to, recruit troops.
Oh boy, I tell you, don't want to be on his X off the Christmas card list. I think that's for sure.
Yeah, well, witnesses said they saw an explosion hit the plane twice.
Oh, twice? That sounds like surface to air kind of thing?
Yeah, well, he wanted it out. He waited 2 months, but Russia is really great for giving poison. But I guess, Putin was really upset with him, so he figured he'd give the guy a blowjob, like the world's biggest blowjob.
One heard around the world, literally.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I mean, for sure. It makes you not want to eat borscht, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know, but the news, since, I'll be honest with you. I haven't kept up with the news since I've been off. The doctor cleared me to talk all I want. Hopefully my voice comes back like it used to be. I'll tell you why, but I can't because there's young people listening. But I tell you, I've been watching a lot of on YouTube. It's called Creature Features.
Oh, I watched the same one. I swear you copy me everything I watch.
Well, I sent an email to him, and he's been sending an email back. I'm trying to get the star of the show. The retired rock star. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know you wanted to. Hell, I could have reached out to them. I watched that all the time.
Well, why didn't you? You're the producer.
Last time I did that, you said, "Oh, what my show."
No, well, why not? We could talk about sci-fi creepy movies that were so bad they never, Let's face it, some of those movies are pretty bad.
I still reverse back to The Claw. Remember The Claw, and it had that fake big old claw in the plane? And
yeah, that was, well, they had, let's explain that to the listeners. They had a very tight budget.
Yeah.
And they recruited one famous movie star, and that ate up pretty much their whole budget. And so they didn't have the money for special effects. So there they came up with this most ridiculous bird with a giant claw. But you know what? You got to be in a mindset. Let's go back in the 50s, okay? And, in the 50s, of course, you're not that old, but, in the 50s, you can get scared over ridiculous stuff. You look back now and you go, how could anybody ever got scared on that? But they did. I remember my dad, when he didn't want me up late, he would put a scary movie on a Friday, Saturday night, and I was in the bedroom. I was scared to death. I'd try to get underneath the bed.
No, yeah, you were underneath the blanket, but that makes me think of the movie Tingler. Remember, they put the buzzers underneath the chair, so you wasn't expecting it, and then that Tingler come out, and you got.
Oh, they did a whole bunch of stuff, and they remember those 3D glasses and all that.
Oh yeah.
And everybody in the audience is insured. Okay, in case anything bad happens, you die during the movie and have a heart attack. We should have insurance in case any of our people die listening to a show of boredom.
Well, first red flag, if you're going to the movie and you got to sign a waiver, you might want to think about it.
But we should have that for the show. Have all the listeners sign a waiver. You know, we can put it up on our website. If you want to listen to the show, you sign the waiver.
They'll say, wavo, see you later.
Or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else goes on strange while you were off the air too?
Oh my, Gary! Listen. You know, I have experienced some.
You're not going to talk about your rain jacket, right?
No.
Okay, you do keep that button up, right?
Yeah, until I caught on something. But anyway, I heard a weird noise. I can't explain it.
Oh, that weird noise about what you explained. If you go back into the that county, you realize there was a guy. It was a car accident. Somebody got killed. I researched it. I had to after what you said.
Funny. We're still. I've been researching. Haven't found it. As a matter of fact, all four of us that witnessed it.
Well, yeah, we're looking, but it's in the news.
Well, we sure looked in the news too. I haven't heard nothing. Listen, that was weird. It was like being.
What were you smoking? What were you smoking? Were you eating mushrooms?
No. Oh boy, no.
Yeah, those. You better watch out for those mushrooms. I don't care what sauce you put on it. You got to watch out. Anyway, let's take this real quick break. When we come back, why don't you tell everybody when we come back who our guest is? You're listening to, well, me, Gary, on Night Dreams Talk Radio. We'll be right back. Maybe, if everything keeps working.
Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. The universe may be shaped like a donut and not like a pancake, new research suggests. The universe may be flat, but could still be shaped like a donut. This according to weird patterns of leftover light from the Big Bang. I'm Guy Ticker. The strange news is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You are tuned into Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Now, get ready for that real ride in UFOs and the strange. And now, here's Gary, coming to you live from his studio in beautiful Gig Harbor, Washington.
Boy, that thunder, I told you that storm was just moving in. Well, JC, who is our guest?
Well, our guest tonight is Jeremiah Fountain. Now, he has been a cryptid and paranormal investigator for, about 20 years now, specializing in Sasquatch and Dogman, and he's also an MMA fighter. Now, his family has been into logging. He lives in Upstate New York, and he has some Sasquatch family on his property. He also runs a podcast and several research groups across the country.
Well, Mr. J, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Gary. It's a pleasure to finally talk to you, and it's an honor for you having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, to be involved with Bigfoot and Dogmen, how old were you when you started taking interest in this?
I was about 7. My mother bought me a book. I don't know if you remember it, Unexplained Mysteries of the 21st Century, or the 20th Century. Can't remember the exact title, but I was flipping through the pages, going through the Loch Ness Monster, and all of a sudden I came across a picture of a beautiful girl named Patty. And I was enthralled from the minute I saw her. That's how the ball started to roll. Always been an outdoorsman, hunter, survivalist, and I've just always been into cryptids and paranormal. It's been a fascination of mine, like I said, since I've been a little boy.
Interesting. And when did you have your first experience? What was it like?
Well, my first, kind of disturbing in a way. It was 2001. It was muzzleloader season up here in New York, so it was beginning of October. I had taken a walk out back on our land, and there's a spring all the way to the back where my tree stand was. And I walked back, sat in the tree stand for a little bit, and just got a really weird feeling. Everything went quiet. Kind of got the creeps, like I shouldn't be there. So I decided to get out, start walking out. And this is before my place was built down there, my cabin. And Gary, my father, had about 60 feet away from where I was, my father had a skidder, an old skidder, a log skidder. And I saw two sets of amber eyeballs pop around from the front of the skidder. And I'm thinking to myself, what was that? I can identify most, any wildlife animal we've got around here. And this was very weird. So I started walking towards it more, and I got right in front of the skidder, and I'm about 40 feet away from the skidder at this time. I'm in front of it. And then the head popped around with an arm, and it would have been its left arm. I could see the fingers, the hands, the head. But by this time I had my headlamp on. I had it lit right up. Now, in front of the skidder, there was two logs. Okay. The first log is about 12 feet away from the front edge of from the front end of the skidder. Second log was about 15 feet away from that. So all of a sudden, from behind the skidder flies this creature, jumps to the first log. And it was amazing what this thing did. You know how most human beings, when we take a leap, we bend our knees and we kind of wave our hands, our arms, to take jump. This thing didn't do that at all. When it hit that log, it propelled. The only way I can describe it is it propelled itself off the front part of its feet, and then just immediately went to that second log. When it hit that log, it did the same exact thing. No crouching, no arm swinging, just propelled itself off the front end of its foot. Okay. And it went behind a tree. So at this point, I'm in awe. I didn't know what was going on. Like I said, kind of weird, disturbing. And all of a sudden, this thing pops out from behind the tree, and I'm looking at it, and it's about 4'11", 5 foot. And I'm thinking, my first thought was, did somebody have a pet orangutan around here that got loose? That was the only thing that could come to mind. I was just in shock. And as the hair is rising on the back of my neck and on my arms, there was still that bit of curiosity there. I had to get a better look at this thing. So like I said, this thing is about 4'11", 5 foot. And people always ask me, how heavy was this thing? And I'll tell them, probably 185, maybe 200 pounds. And they say, well, that's not that big. Well, for something 4'11", 5 foot, that's pretty stacked, So I had to get a better look at this thing, and I want everyone to know out there that I'm not pro-kill. But like I said, I wanted to get a better look at what I was looking at because I was losing light, even though I had the headlamp lit up. So I raised my muzzleloader to get a better look at this thing. And I no more than raised that muzzleloader, and I almost had it to my shoulder. And the thing crouched down, picked its left arm up, kind of covered its head, and hopped behind that tree, and it was gone. I didn't see it after that.
Interesting.
Did not see it after that.
How scared were you?
It was pretty terrifying, being my first experience and all. And I was in total shock, and I got out of there real quick.
Now, are you the only one that saw it?
I was by myself, yeah.
How did you tell your parents about it or anybody about it?
I talked to my dad about it, and he told me that there was always weird stuff going on down there. He never went into real detail about it. But my father and my brother-in-law would tell me about, after they got done hunting, on occasions they could hear bipedal footsteps pacing them back to their vehicle. Pine cones thrown at them, and they would be logging down there, so on and so forth.
Interesting.
but they never actually saw anything.
Now, I take it your father was in the lumber industry one way or the other?
Yes.
Now,
Yep, all the way back to my great-grandfather.
now,
Yep.
did your great-grandfather or your father ever have any experiences with Bigfoot or Dogmen or any other type of creature?
Nope, but my father's mother was full-blooded Mohawk, and she wasn't a believer, she was a knower. It was part of their culture, and she used to tell me that, they have half a step in the spirit world and half a step in the physical world at all times.
Very interesting. So this is your first encounter. I mean, when you went to school, did you tell your friends about your encounter?
Everyone thought I was nuts.
Well,
Everyone thought I was crazy, Gary.
Well, that's the whole thing, like with my encounter, I didn't say anything for about 20 years because, again, I was scared to be ridiculed. Oh, yeah, what were you drinking? What were you smoking? What were you doing? People don't take it serious. And the whole problem is, this whole thing about Bigfoot, Dogmen, all that, there's something that's going on in these woods. I don't know what it is, but
Right.
I know there's a being out there or beings out there, and you're not going to find them at the campground. I really,
No.
it amazes me how some people say, oh, I see their dwellings right next to the trail where I was camping at. I just don't believe that these creatures would do that close. My encounter was way up in the Canadian Rockies, miles and miles away from civilization.
Right.
And again,
Yeah.
too, being out logging and stuff, you're not next to a Walmart.
No, not whatsoever. We live out in the middle of nowhere. We're right in the northern Adirondacks. I could literally walk across the Canadian border into Quebec
Wow.
from our property.
So how did that affect you at 7 years old?
Oh, I didn't see it when I was 7. I saw
Okay.
it in 2001. I was about 22.
How
at
did
the time.
it affect you?
It ruined my hunting for about 2 years.
Were you
I would not go in the woods for about 2 years, Gary.
I still won't go in the woods because what my experience, I'm terrified because again, maybe it was a one-time only experience, but it's a one-time only I never want to experience again.
Yeah, I could tell you why. I agree with you. I wouldn't care if I saw another one again.
So you were
it's
21, 22 when this happened.
Yeah.
How old are you
Yep.
when you had your next encounter? What was that like?
The next one is, okay, this was the disturbing one, the really disturbing one for me. This was in 2007. I had some, after these years of, after my first encounter, I got into the investigation a little bit, but I wasn't full-blown into it. Now, in 2007, it was the beginning of rifle season in New York. But when I went back to my tree stand, I had my 300 Winchester Magnum on me. I didn't intend on, I always carry a weapon in the woods, and it's not for the Bigfoot, it's not for the Dogman, it's for other things that might be lurking around, I was just planning on fixing my tree stand because it needed some work done. I finished working on the tree stand a little bit quicker than expected, so I decided to sit for a little bit. There's a nice 10-point buck in the area I wanted to harvest, and decided to sit and wait to see if he passed through. Well, lo and behold, before the sun even started to set, that weird feeling came across me again, dead silence, and then I heard a scream, almost like in between a howl and a roar, if that makes sense. And it just about went through me. So I said, okay, it's time to get out of here. Now, as you're walking, taking the path to the main trail from my tree stand, we have a beautiful natural artesian spring back there, and I have to go by that to get back to the front of the property. Now, as I'm walking by the spring, I see what looks like a tree standing right off the bank in the water. And I'm said to myself, well, that's kind of weird. How'd that pop in there? How'd that happen, occur? Until this tree turned her hips and looked at me. And at this point, I'm about 30, maybe 40 feet away from her. And I say her because it was a female. You could see breasts, large breasts, built, along with the build, the bigger buttocks. And I knew it was a female.
How far away, Mr. J, how far away were you from it?
By this time, Gary, I was about 40 feet. Did
you notice any stench?
I didn't, and that's one thing I've never come across is stench. These things, never.
Because up in the, when I had mine up in the Canadian Rockies, it was the first part of June, and it was still snow on the ground, and it was cold. I say it was like in the lower 60s. I remember that during the day, and it was really chilly. And when I had the encounter, when it got close to the car, I smelt the stench. It is like feces. Urine, and if you took the world's hottest pepper and imported it from Africa and then put it all together in a mixer, that's the smell.
It's similar to what I hear a lot from people I interview.
Yeah, and it literally burnt my nostrils, so I started breathing from my mouth, and that just literally tore my throat up. And
God.
It was the most pungent smell I've ever encountered in my life, and it was painful.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I didn't catch the stench, but I will tell you about her hair, and I want to reiterate to everyone out there that don't, realize this. It's not fur; it is hair. I remember looking at her and just in amazement, and she was an auburnish brown, no facial hair whatsoever. Kind of like the head wasn't as coned as Patty's, but it wasn't round either. It was kind of in between. She had a real flat nose, broad nose, wide mouth. The mouth, now, it is an exaggeration when I say this. I say it as kind of a joke now, but her mouth, this was mental, obviously, but her mouth looked so wide to me at the time that she could have opened it up and just bit my head off like a Pez dispenser.
You know what I noticed? I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't look that long because I was trying to get away. What I remember was the forehead. Okay, it was a clear spot on the forehead where there was no hair, and it was it was a wide forehead. It was not like my forehead or your forehead. That I noticed, and again I noticed the kind of wide, flat nose, and the eyes were bigger than what a human would be. It was just scary.
Much bigger, yeah, they're much bigger, and the way she looked at me. I didn't get mind speak like people talk about, like people I've interviewed talk about, but it's the closest I think I've come. I think it was just my gut telling me, that I wasn't in a good position. I had my rifle over my shoulder, and she went from looking dead in my eyes, and I saw her eyes move to the muzzle brake of that rifle coming over my shoulder. She moved her eyes back, looked me directly in the eye, and gave me kind of a look like, okay, I quote the movie Tombstone. Go ahead and skin that smoke wagon and see what happens. Like pretty much telling me if you pull it, I'll get to you before you get to me. And I had no intentions of it. Even if I would have, she would have gotten to me first.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that because my uncle up in Mount Shasta when I was a kid, he was out bear hunting. And he thought he had the perfect kill shot, and he shot this bear, but it kept on coming. And then he couldn't get a second shot, or maybe he did. I can't remember the whole story. I was young. But I remember his oldest son ended up killing the bear, but it mauled him. And he was in the hospital for a long period of time. He was scarred up the rest of his life. And they thought he was going to die. And if you think about a bear, think about something that's bigger than a bear.
Oh, my God. I mean, and that's the thing, I was telling James, the producer, the other day, she was a big female. I'm guessing 8 feet, had to at least weigh 700 pounds. I think people underestimate the weight of these things a lot. It's just something I believe. in my heart. I think people truly underestimate the weight. You know, they talk about these 9-footers they see and say, you know, it was 500 pounds. Well, in my mind, I would think it'd be closer to 1,000. You know, just off of what I saw from her, and you know, through my other experiences. She did something really weird, Gary. If you want to hear about it with her eyes.
Well, let's go for a break, and when we come back, I want to know what she did. So stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back with Mr. J. We're talking about Bigfoot, and then we're going to kind of slip into, well, Dogman. So stay tuned, and, well, let's just get this thing rolling. So here we go.
Coming to you from the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network newsroom, I'm Guy Ticker with the strange news. Murder hornet relative is invading the U.S. A species native to Asia has been spotted in America for the first time and is a threat to the agriculture industry. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has ID'd the first yellow-legged hornet alive in Georgia. The hornet is a vicious predator of honeybees, threatening farms and even humans. Authorities call on the public to help capture yellow-legged hornets. Capture? I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Hi, I'm Fred Saluga. Listen to Night Dreams Talk Radio with Gary Anderson.
You are listening to the legendary Gary Anderson, heard coast to coast and worldwide on Night Dreams Talk Radio. Now available on many radio stations and on your favorite app.
Oh, finally I get him on dial-up.
No.
Oh, shit!
And now, with no more foul language, sorry, I couldn't resist. Here he is, the one, the only Gary Anderson.
And we are back. Well, you know what, JC? We got to do something about these chickens running around in the studio. Did you hear that chicken again?
I did hear that chicken. I can't believe they get by with them 2 horses you got running around.
Well, yeah, the 2 horses and a goat and a couple Great Danes and a German Shepherd, but yet we still have chickens running around this studio. That is crazy.
And a cat. Don't forget the cat.
Yeah, that poor little pussy imported from the UK.
Yeah. Do you rub it?
No, I pet the pussy quite often.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with your pussy?
No, I don't want to. I have a beaver.
I know you do. You need to shave. Anyway, we are back with Mr. J. Are you still there?
I'm still here, Gary.
Okay. Well, again, having these encounters, I mean, what did she looked at you? I mean, what type of look? I mean, was it like, I want to kill you type of look, or I want to just drag you off to the bushes type of look?
That's how it was at first, but as she's looking at me, she kind of gave me a look like, if you don't, after she looked at my rifle, she looked back at me and she kind of gave me a look like, if you don't pull it, we won't have any problems. I'm not going to have a problem with you. You're not going to have a problem with me. So obviously, you know, I was just frozen. And at that point, she turned, took one leap onto the bank, and she took 3 leaps, and she was gone. I went back with 4 buddies the next day, and we could still see the scuff marks. She had went 63 feet in 3 leaps.
Oh, wow. And
which is incredible.
But here's the thing. You know how many people go missing in the woods? It's a lot of people go out there. Now, granted, you're out there somewhere a few miles out and you fall and break your, ankle or break your leg, unless somebody happens to stumble where you're at, you're going to die. But again, a lot of people die out there. And, if you go back to the American natives and you go back to the folklore, I tell you, these Bigfoot creatures, let alone dogmen, it's kind of scary. The past, they have a reputation of being cannibals.
Yes. Yep. They do.
I don't know. I never got any orbs off of one. Did you?
That's it's funny you mention that, because not with my Sasquatch encounters. Out doing research, Sasquatch research, I've witnessed many orbs. I've got a lot of them on film. But I have taken Nick Valente and I, we put our calculations together, and we have found that about 90% of the people we've interviewed in the past, before, during, or after a dogman or Bigfoot encounter, they see lights in the sky, whether it's an orb or some sort of craft in the sky. I don't know what the connection is, but there's some correlation going on. There's got to be.
I didn't have any of that type of, I didn't have, some people say that they telecommunicate, they send orbs, and I never had that with my encounter. The encounter I had was like, if I stayed around, I wouldn't be talking to you type of,
Right.
And it was very aggressive. But now again, maybe if it's where people go frequently, they know to stay away from humans, and maybe they respond different. But, where I was at, I don't think there's many people walking around.
True.
And when, it saw me, it took me as a threat. That's the only thing I still have, Mr. J. I have nightmares about it.
Oh, me too. I was telling James that the other day. I still have dreams and nightmares about these encounters, experiences. Do you want me to tell you what she did with the eyes?
Yeah, what did she do with her eyes?
Okay, the only way I can describe this, Gary, is, when a shark takes a bite out of prey, that shield comes up over their eyes?
Right, protect them, yes.
Okay. From the bottom of her eyes, it wasn't a bottom eyelid or top eyelid, it was something underneath. To me, it looked like something underneath the bottom part of her eye came up, and she flickered up and down about 5 times with it before she took off. And I've only heard of one other case of that happening. It was with a guy I know that saw that happen to the dogman. And I've never seen anything like that in my life. It blew my mind, blew me away.
Now, did it make any screaming noises? The one I did, I'll tell you, it screamed, and that was the scariest scream. Worse than my wife, when I say she can't have money tonight to go shopping for new shoes, she'll scream. But this scream I had was like way worse.
Yeah, she didn't. This particular one did not. She didn't make any screams except for that. I'm guessing it might have been her when I was in the tree stand, and I heard that scream. But up until after that point, nope, she didn't make any vocalizations at all. Nothing. One thing I do want to mention, if it's all right, about the hair. A lot of people talk about the matted hair and, the big thick mats, and, I didn't see this on her. It was almost like a clean coat, like she had been groomed, which I guess is a strong possibility.
Okay, what did the hair look like? Because the one I saw, it was really thick, really, hairy.
Yeah, it was thick. It was thick and heavy, but it just looked clean.
Well, maybe it's because of the woman, and they take care of themselves better than us guys.
That's a good point, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I can think about it. Maybe that's why she didn't smell either.
It could be.
Like I can use like a woman Bigfoot telling her mate, "Hey, you need to take a bath in the creek or the river." No,
Right.
it's too cold and fish swim in it. I don't want to smell like fish. Yeah. Okay, so you had that encounter. Have you had any other more Bigfoot encounters?
Yes. I've got, a face to face, actually, what I call an encounter, happened. We actually moved to North Carolina for a couple of years, and this sighting would have been back in 2019. It was, we had a few miles down the road from where we lived. It was nothing but total swamp. We were near the Croatan National Forest, and it was an old train trestle, and we could tell right away. We started finding tracks, hearing vocalizations. We had two of them pace us out one day. I have pictures of that. You could see their eyeballs in the tree line as they were following us out. Well, anyway, one night we went down. My daughter, who's 19, my wife, and one of my daughter's friends were down there, and we were underneath the bridge. And the bridge, the two sides of land were separated by the creek, and that was probably 40 feet across. And we heard bipedal movement coming through the bayou, the water. And all of a sudden we see eye illumination, red eye shine, and actually a set of blue eye shine as well. And I said, okay, we're getting some action here. And Nick told me to check in with him, and I was actually messaging Nick, and I hear my daughter start to hyperventilate, and she calls me Jay. She says, Jay, look at what's that? And I look across and I see, I had a big spotlight on me, and I could see his silhouette walking up the hill, and I lit him right up. And it was a gray one. Built different than what I've seen in the Adirondacks. He was a little bit shorter, but his chest was like a barrel, and you could almost see, I could see the top of his belly. He was in vegetation that was probably 5.5 feet, and I could see, a good 2.5 feet, above that. So I saw the top part of his belly, his chest area, and his head. And he turned as he was going up the hill. He turned, looked right at us while I had him lit up, and he had fluorescent blue eye shine, turned his head back, and he kept walking, he minded his own business, didn't bother us at all.
No rock throwing at you guys or any noises?
Nothing.
Or yips?
I've experienced that in the past, but not with this guy.
Interesting.
Not with this one. He just, where the other ones went, I don't know, but he was the only one that showed himself. And my daughter and my wife got to see him. I had my head down, like I said, messaging Nick, and while I was doing that, they saw him face first to walk out. I didn't pick my head up until he was on his way up the hill, and he crossed the railroad tracks above us, and then he went down into the brush on the other side.
I would have been in Cincinnati that quick. Now, because time is going by fast, what is a dogman? Is that like my German Shepherd wearing shoes walking through the bushes? Or what can you describe? What is a dogman?
I never believed in them until I saw one. Gary, I really don't know what they are. I really don't. Until, like I said, I never believed them until I saw one. We were coming back home. We had eaten dinner at my parents, and my wife Stacy and I, and we were going down our back road to get to the property. We were living off the grid at the time, building our cabin, and this was in 2016. And we get, we're, I'd say, 100 feet away from where this thing was standing, and I said, Stacy, slow down, you're going to hit that guy. She said, what guy? And I said, look, right there. And she hit the brakes, and at this point, we were about 40, 50 feet away, and she had the high beams on, and this thing was standing there against the tree, turned and looked at us, had a very, very smug, arrogant look on its face, if that makes sense. Very, very, sarcastic looking face, I could do what I want to you when I want to do it. I got a very malevolent feeling off of this thing. Hopped into the road, center lines, turned and looked at us, gave us his full frontal, and then turned again, hopped on all fours, and then went onto our side of the property.
How big was it?
About 7.5 feet.
Okay, and did it walk on two legs before it hopped onto the four?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yep.
And what did the head look like? What did it have anything that resembled a human, like JC or anything like that?
No, it looked like a German, upright walking German Shepherd on steroids.
Wow.
And it was a dark brownish in color.
Did it make any howling or any noise after or before or anything during that time?
No, but he showed us his teeth.
Now, was his teeth different than a German Shepherd would be?
A little bit longer.
Well, Nick has been on the show a few times, and he said he saw one, in a parking area,
Yes.
and that it was kind of like had blood on it, and there was a bicycle parked there. I wonder if it had a dinner or something.
It's a possibility, and that kind of brings me to the next Dogman encounter. But before I finish up this one, I did not see a tail. It could have lost, like James was saying, it could have lost one in a fight, or, and it did not have the backwards facing legs like a dog. It had straight legs like a Sasquatch or a human.
So it didn't have like a dog normally has. So that's interesting. How about its feet?
No.
Did you notice his feet? To support something 7 feet tall, they can't have the size feet of dogs, I don't think.
No, this one had, from what I could tell from where we were sitting, it had feet like ours, or a Sasquatch.
Interesting. I wonder if Bigfoot has been mating with wild dogs.
That's a good question. I've heard that theory before, but it would up here, what the cycle is, the Sasquatch they leave in about November, come back in April. While the Sasquatch are gone, the Dogmen move in, and they don't play. I get the idea that they don't play well together up here. I hear stories from down south where they're seen together, this and that, and I've never gotten a report like that up here.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, what do these Dogmen eat? I mean, again, I've had other people on the show talk about Dogmen, and I asked them if there's been any missing people around, where they have been sighted. Oh, no, I don't think so. But I mean, wild dogs, are very aggressive. If you walked out in the woods and you ran across a couple wild dogs, you better hope you can get away quick, because they're going to tear you apart and eat you.
Absolutely. Well, the next, my second Dogman encounter, if you want me to get into that.
Yeah, we got a couple. Go.
Yeah. So I was walking down the same trail on the property. This was this would have been in 2021. This was fairly recent. Which, you asked me what I think they eat. Well, when I saw that, I was about 100 feet away from this one. Walked a little bit closer. I wasn't sure what it was, and I could tell what it was right away after I got a little bit closer. It was a gray Dogman staring at me, and it was holding up a dead deer that had been split down the middle. I sent James a picture of this, actually, and you could see the gut sac and the bowels all over the ground.
Okay.
And
now, what type? Okay, if it's holding, what type of paws do they have to be able to hold something like that?
It looked like it had its hands like from what I could tell, hands like ours. No paws. It looked like it had one hand locked around the other wrist as it was holding this deer up from underneath the deer's shoulders, and had it right up off the ground.
Now, I asked Nick one time, could these actually Dogmen be werewolves?
I thought about that too. It's a possibility. Now, this one, I didn't notice whether, I was so far away, I didn't notice if it had the backwards facing legs or not, to be honest with you, and I didn't see a tail. It was just too far, but I do have that one picture, and I don't know if he sent it to you, but you can analyze it, but this one was gray.
And how much do you think the deer weighed?
To me, it looked like a doe. It was actually no antlers. It was a doe. I would say 115 pounds. I have enough trouble dragging a 115-pound buck out of the woods by myself, let alone pick it up from underneath the shoulders and hold it in the air.
That's scary when you think about it. After these type encounters, and do you still go out in the woods?
I do. We research all the time. Yeah, I've been researching Maine, Canada, New York, all parts of New York State, New England, North Carolina, down to some southern states, and I'm still looking for answers.
I
believe that as a researcher, it's my duty to help others.
Do you keep something to protect yourself? I mean, I've talked to these Bigfoot guys, and no, I don't have anything. I don't have bear spray. I don't believe in taking guns with me. I mean, if all of a sudden, if you're on their list for dinner, I mean, if you have no protection.
Yeah, I always have when I go in the woods, I always carry a weapon.
Okay, always. If you saw a dogman up close and it gave you that look, would you off it to bring it back to show science what is going on?
I don't know unless I was in that position. I really don't know, because God, Lord knows, who knows what can put these things down. I mean, we interviewed a guy recently that shot one of the 40 caliber pistol across the face, and it just got up and ran away. So that particular day I saw this one, I have a feeling I would have been lunch if I didn't have I had my 12 gauge on me, loaded with buckshot, and it had that deer. So it makes me wonder, if I hadn't had that gun on me and that thing hadn't had that deer, would I have been lunch?
You could have just been one of those missing, that somebody went out in the woods and just totally disappeared.
Exactly. Yep. And that was, and so I decided to back out real slow, just start walking backwards real slow. I was able to get that picture. And all it didn't move 1 inch of its body except for its head. And it glanced me on the way out, kept turning its head as I was backing up. And when I felt I was far enough away from it, I turned around and I booked it out of there. Ah,
you ran. Good move.
No, I didn't run. I just moved fast. I didn't want, you never run from a predator.
I did. I tell you, I ran 2 miles. And I mean, of course, nowadays I couldn't even run 10 feet. But, back then I was in shape. I had to run back 2 miles, and I was running the best I could.
Yeah, from what I hear, you had a pretty brutal encounter.
It was bad. And I tell you what, It's really hard to explain to your wife why her new car, it has a lot of damage done to it, too.
Right.
I should have just told her I was smoking weed and I ran into a telephone pole. And she would have believed that one. But she never believed the Bigfoot story, which is 100% true.
Yeah. Even, even after I was... I got into the Dogman a little bit. People thought I was even crazier. First you're talking about Sasquatch, you're out of your mind there as it is. And now you're talking about these humanoid dog creatures. You're even more nuts. But
I won't come back with a joke. I was going to ask you if you have dog treats with you when you went across one of these.
Never. Maybe I'll try it next time.
Yeah. Well, JC is available if you ever go out in his area. I figured what you could do is fill his pockets with dog treats. Okay.
Right. And then, as long as I can run faster than him.
Oh yeah, you can. He's not in good health anymore. And then you smear him with butter, peanut butter, the rest of them. So if the Bigfoot doesn't come after him because of the smell of the peanut butter, then you'll get the dog man coming at him because they will have dog treats in his pockets.
Right.
No.
I mean, okay, what would you advise people out there that now all of a sudden want to go out and look for Dogmen or Bigfoot? What would you advise them?
If they've never been into the field before?
Never been out in the woods looking for anything like that.
I wouldn't advise doing it. I would not advise doing it. I've got, myself and other guys in my inner circle, we've been doing this 20 plus years. And that was only because of an infatuation when I was a child. And what really did it, what got me into it was, that second encounter. I needed answers. Even though I was petrified, I needed answers. And, I hooked up with Will Jevning for a while. I was the executive director of his organization for about 8 years. And then I, kind of broke away and went out on my own, started my own stuff. And, been, heavy into the research, ever since for, greater part of 20 plus years. And I would recommend, don't seek these creatures out. If you're going to see one, it's because they want you to.
Well, or you're going to just stumble one. That's what happened to me.
Yes.
Yeah. I just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. I tell you that.
Wrong time.
Now, like Ron Moorhead has recorded through the years the Sierra sounds, which sounds like the Japanese, type of language type of thing. A samurai type of sound. Have you heard any sounds out in the woods like that?
I have. I've actually got a recording of you can hear that little bit of jibber jabber. Like like Moorhead recorded just a little bit and very faint, but you can hear it.
A lot of people claim they have been out in the woods and they hear that, and that would be enough for me to go back to the camp. Then from the camp to get back, and heck with it, I ain't going back to the camp. I'm going to get back to the vehicle and get out of there.
Good vehicle, yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize, I don't know what these creatures are. A lot of people think they're, they think the same as humans. Well, they don't. I still remember the guy in Alaska last year that was out and he had an encounter with a grizzly bear. And he finally got his cell phone out after the encounter, and he said, I finally killed the bear. Literally, half of his face and eye was hanging out of his socket, and part of his face was gone. He made the news. Wow. If you're not prepared for any of this stuff, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Right. Exactly. And these people that don't agree with, I'm not saying anything against them. I don't want to get in trouble for this from the viewers, but I recommend carrying something.
Well, I would for protection because, again, I think about my uncle. He
right.
What the bear did to him. What could you imagine? What a 500 to 800 pound Bigfoot or a Dogman? How much do you think that Dogman weighed? The one you saw close up.
Probably 600. 600.
Yeah, they could literally tear you apart.
Rip you right to pieces. It was built like a pro basketball player, except thicker.
No, that's not for me. Now, do you have a website or anything you can share to the listeners?
Yeah, I've got a few Facebook groups. I am it's On the Trail, Cryptid and Paranormal Research, right on Facebook. We have another one, the Secret Society of the Paranormal and Cryptid Investigations. And then I am one of Nick's directors for his new organization, the International Dogman Project. We've got a bunch of chapters across the states. We're picking up one in England. I'm his director for the New York State chapter. And our YouTube channel is Paranormal and Cryptid Crossroads Research, which has all of our shows on it for the past 5 seasons.
Great. Well, Mr. J, I really enjoyed having you on. It would have been nicer if your Skype would have worked, because then everybody could have seen what you looked like. But
I know it, Gary. I know. I apologize for that. I don't know what was going on.
Well, at least we got you on. And I want to thank you and say hi to Nick next time you talk to him for me.
Will do, Gary.
Okay, my friend, you take care.
You too. I appreciate it.
Well, JC, who's our guest tomorrow? What are we talking about tomorrow?
Well, our guest tomorrow is Adam Davies. He's world-renowned, many years of, researching, investigating, and looking for cryptids all over the world, from, the Yowie to the Pan. I can't even pronounce that one, but all over the place. He's been looking for these creatures. Yeti, you name it.
Yeti is the ones that would scare me the most, because they are noted as supposed to be cannibals.
Oh, yeah, there's many reports of that. Matter of fact, there's a well-known one where it took one of the people that lived there, the lady.
Yeah. Haven't you watched any of these movies about the Yetis, what they do to people?
Oh, yeah. Listen, Peter Cushing will tell you right away, if he was alive, stay away from those things.
Yeah, well, my next door neighbor looks like a Yeti.
Yeah. What, he looks like a microphone?
No, not that type of Yeti.
Oh, okay. Different one.
And who's Friday's guest?
We have Brian Seach coming on. He's going to be another great guest. He's many years of researching and investigating Bigfoot boots on the ground. Very nice guy, and he's got a lot of great. He's took some reports that will scare you. Let me tell you.
Yeah, again, maybe my encounter was very rare. Maybe they look at humans and send off orbs and telecommunicate with humans, but my experience wasn't that way. I've talked to a lot of other people. Again, they didn't have those orbs come to them. And I always kind of find it kind of strange that somebody can be in their trailer, Mr. Beagle, and you and your wife can sit there and wish on orbs appear and Bigfoot appear, and they appear. I just don't. That's like, somebody point up out there the sky and a UFO appears.
Yeah. Look, common sense will tell you, just like, look, people. Everybody's got different personalities. You got different moods, bad days. You don't know what this creature has been through today. Maybe got in a fight for territory or something earlier with them. Who knows? Maybe it's hungry. Maybe it's desperate. Bottom line is, you don't want to walk up to these things. Hey, let me look for fleas off of you. Let me help you.
Well, I don't want to run across another one. I can tell you that.
No, you don't know. They're unpredictable. We don't know. We don't know.
Well, everybody tell your friends that we are back, and we plan to be back. I have to warn you, I'm taking off next week, but I will be back next Friday. Then in September, we're back to our normal schedule, and, everything will be fine-tuned in. It's really hard to, after you've been off as much as I have, to get back in the seat and get back into the swing of it. I don't got the swing. Now, anyway, till tomorrow, everybody have a good one. We will catch you on the other side of the campground. Well, how about the other side of the subway? We'll talk to you later.